All right, have and have not fans. I apologize for not live tweeting during the episode. Long story short, I did get paid from YouTube around noon today. It was like 90 degrees, so I waited until it cooled down to go out. So I left my apartment like at 6:30. Didn't get back until like 9:20 from grocery shopping, paying bills and whatnot. I still got a place I need to go. So I actually just sat down and watched the episode Spanish Moss Trail, as well as the preview for next week, Tomorrow's Not Promised. I got all my screenshot, all of my notes, and it takes time to get that together. So that's why I'm actually staying up past where I'm usually asleep to do my episode review and trailer breakdown, and maybe one or two separate videos and post those all at once, because tonight's episode wasn't perfect, but I would dare say it was the best episode of the three we've gotten so far from season 6. A Wicked Web and Dessert, and now we got Spanish Moss Trail. Off the bat, I think an 8.5 out of 10 is a fair score. If I were to critique one part of the episode that I feel kind of dragged things down, it was the Veronica David scene. First of all, could I be wrong, but is this the first time that Veronica has referred to herself as the Ice Queen in the show? That was something I caught there. And there are multiple things I'm sick of in the show, and it's just the whole thing where, okay, great, she has a plan of how to, beat the grand jury, but this whole condescending David thing, when is it going to end? It's just a nonstop of, you were sleeping with those whores. Are you in pain? Do you hate me? And it's just like, really? And then the whole, like, you need to get checked, to make sure you didn't catch anything. Well, how many times have you had unprotected sex with Benny Young, and then RK literally went down on you last episode, then you walk into David's house? So I'm just like, can we please move past this? But I doubt it's going to end anytime soon. It seems like those two will be preoccupied with the Jeffrey situation, but I'll do separate videos on that, and I'll talk about it more in my trailer breakdown for next week. But the best part of the scene was when Veronica left. It's like, enjoy your last few days on this earth, and that's pretty much the big takeaway. I mean, I want you to make love to me like you used to. The back of my back is still freaking blistered. Like, literally, they showed the scene where Madison is changing his, well, not changing the band-aids, but stopping his back from bleeding. I mean, trust me, I used to get those kind of scars. When you fall down and scrape your knee and whatnot, then the scab kind of falls off or whatever, then your skin looks like that. Yuck. I don't want to see that anymore. I mean, it could be worse. But it's just like, ugh. So I don't want to see that anymore. And no, I didn't knock off points because we saw David's back. But I'm kind of jumping around here, but Jim Cry was probably one of my standouts of the episode. He had a lot of funny lines, especially with RK. I love their exchange. RK was like, man, it's like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air shit up in here. It's like, yo, this shit is fly. Excuse me, there are no flies in here. This was a good episode. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Okay, but let's start it. Let me get some order right in here. Get some order. Okay, so we start out the episode. Madison is patching up David. They're talking about Justin with the gun. And pretty much, well, he pulled a gun on me. I put him on the floor. Well, where's Jeffrey? He's still over there. He's a grown man. Once again, I'm not going to really rant about Justin and Jeffrey, because in the next scene, and I've had discussions with 6 people through Instagram DMs already about whether or not Justin and Jeffrey were shot, or was it one, because I tried my best. I looked at that scene when the gun went off at least 8 times, and I saw flashes coming from both guns. So I don't know, and I will be doing a separate video on that scene, because if I talked about that scene, this would be like an extra 30 minutes to the episode review. But I will do its own separate video about who I think got shot. There are even some discussions about what if Derek shot himself, because Keisha said 2 gunshot wounds to the head. Does that mean that a person is coming into the hospital with 2 gunshot wounds to the head, or is it 2 individuals with gunshot wounds to the head? We do know they're coming from Spanish Moss Trail, but we don't know what street or road Derek lives on. Keep that in mind, folks. But other than that, let's see here. Candace dancing around the room, pretty much, and it really reminded me of the opening scene from the movie Nobody's Fool. If you saw that movie when Tinka Sumter is dancing to Janet Jackson's Miss You Much, very good, but trust me, her dance in that movie, my gosh. Okay, so pretty much, Candace and Charles are pretty much having a moment where she's having a hard time opening up, trusting Charles, and being happy, which makes sense because it seems like the world is at your feet, but at the same time, you've lost a lot in order to get to where you are. And it's like, I can't really be happy because my son isn't here with me, which moves on to, Charles asking to have not sex, but just making love. And I think later on, she's having nightmares about Quincy Jr. as well. And I would love to see that, like just seeing the nightmares and just seeing, like maybe the ghost of Quincy and whatnot, just talking to Candace and things like that. That's happened in other shows. I don't see why it doesn't happen here. And it really gives insight into these characters. Like if someone close to them dies, it's not just like, oh, that character was killed off, so you know what? They're only going to be mentioned and thought about twice. I think it would be great if Tyler Perry had a couple of scenes where maybe Amanda came back to maybe haunt isn't the best word, but it would describe a lot of people, like, the guilt of, man, I wasn't there as a father like I should have been for Amanda, or, I didn't listen to her. And, Amanda could be just talking about, I was crying for help, but nobody heard me. Or, hell, even the guilt trip of Candace killing Oscar, or and the list goes on. I think they could really do a lot with that. It would give the former cast members a chance to come back for like a few minutes or of an episode. I think that would be a great way to really give character development, to show that characters who are either hurt or killed by other characters, it isn't something that you just shrug off. It has lasting effects. So I really do think that Tyler Perry should look into that. Kathryn getting drunk, watching Broderick flirt with a girl from accounting. RK shows up and Rocky gives him a hard time. So we do know that based off of RK's discussion, the jewelry is still at the pawn shop. He was just telling Veronica the jewelry was gone so he can hopefully get off the hook. Because I imagine, let's say if RK gets the jewelry because Rocky gives him money, what will Veronica say is like, I thought you couldn't get it. Well, I had to do some searching and yada, yada, yada. But I don't know. So Kathryn overhears that. She calls Hannah just to check in with her with the Derek situation. So basically we know that Kathryn just wants to talk with Derek in order to give him a piece of her mind, but it really isn't her place to do so. I feel like if anything, it's just a mixture of her feeling guilty that she unintentionally hooked up Hannah with her ex-rapist, but at the same time it's like, Kathryn, I get it, you're being a good friend, but that's really not your place. It would have been completely different if Derek had done something to her that night, but it just no. So after that, I think the biggest takeaway of that conversation, Hannah agrees to take the job at the hotel, but she's like, hey, can I keep the interest from the money because Benny got in trouble? So that's $20,000. But could you just keep half of my checks for keep half of my first round of checks until that interest is paid off? So basically what I'm assuming will happen, hey, Benny, in the morning, let's get the money back to the Cryers. But Mrs. Cryer said we can keep the interest on the money. That way you can pay them loans and you'll be out of that hole. And I'm going to work for the hotel and that'll be it. So I get it. Hannah's tired, but I really wish this conversation with Benny would have happened that night to prevent what's going to happen in the next episode. Not to mention, we know later in the episode, Jim comes over, threatens Benny to get the money, but he refuses. So it's just like, well, if Hannah would have told Benny what was going to go down, then maybe, and I'm not saying that, Hannah should have gotten up, because if she can get up in the last episode just because she allegedly overheard Mitch and Benny downstairs, then I don't see why she didn't just go across the hallway to talk with Benny. It's like, hey, we're going to get the money back. We got the interest money. We're good to go. It's just a prime example of how one little 45-second conversation would save a lot of problems, because maybe if Hannah told Benny what was going down the next morning, then when Jim called, it's like, don't worry, we're going to get the money back, but whatever. Okay, so after that, let's see. RK gives Kathryn a ride home. Rocky warns Broderick not to piss off Kathryn. And then after that, Scott is in the hotel, pretty much checking in with Kyle. I believe Lisa Delmont is the name of, I believe, a reporter. And Kyle wants Scott to call her, saying that he has a juicy story about the president's girlfriend. And, you know, Kyle is like, well, I think we ought to get some more solid evidence first. This is the problem. This is like the third case of FBI agents, or in this case, like the Attorney General's office, just jumping to conclusions. It's like it's always like a set of two, like the two FBI agents that came up to Veronica's house, the two FBI agents that went to visit Veronica in the hospital, and then we have Kyle and Scott. One of the two always wants to, you know, hey, we're just going to, you know, arrest these people all, under false pretenses and whatnot. Then the other guy's like, shouldn't we get some factual information and evidence first, because, you know, these people are pretty slippery, and then they usually end up crashing and burning. So it really does feel dumb, because the fact that he just wants to jump aboard. Okay, well, this, I'll actually give Kyle this. He's just trying to report a news story, and in day and age, you know, it's all about who's first, not who's accurate. So, you know, I'll give him points on that. You know, yeah, I'll just take back what I said. After that, let's see. Yeah, I'm almost done. RK gets Kathryn home. She asks him about Veronica. Drunk Kathryn, I dare say drunk Kathryn is probably more fun than drunk Veronica, because Kathryn hasn't set people's cars on fire, and she's not driving while drunk. Huh. I mean, she's pretty much suspecting that Veronica's doing something foul with Jeffrey, trying to make sense of it. It's kind of funny how Kathryn drunk and trying to figure out what's going on. That would pretty much be me if I actually drank alcohol, because that's literally me at all hours of the day and night trying to figure out what these characters are up to, because that's what I do for a living. But the gym exchange, my God. Nicaraguan is like, that's racist. It's like, no, it's not. And I thought it was pretty cool. You know, Jim's going to give him $100 for a cab, but then you have the key exchange. It was pretty. Jim had some very interesting interactions with characters this episode. I do think there were some weird transitions between commercial breaks, kind of like, you know, what, Nicaraguan? That's not racist. How is that racist? Come on, it's a country, and it's like, this world today, crazy. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of funny, but awkward way to go in commercial break. Then later on, when, you know, you go to bed. Fine, I'll lead the pack. What are you talking about? Okay, wait up. And it's like, well, Jim, did you go to bed, or did you go upstairs with Wyatt, then come back down and drive to Hannah's house? It was funny, but it was like a weird transition. That's all I'm saying. But I did laugh. I literally laughed. I'm just like, this is kind of awkward, but it's funny because of the delivery of the lines. So I will let that go. That was actually pretty funny. Long story short, Wyatt, here's my thing. RK is taking what? $250,000 vehicle. So remember when Wyatt took his car to get drugs from Quita's part of the neighborhood and Mondo trying to rob him? Maybe RK has maybe he can get it from the hotel. I don't know. I just don't like that idea. I don't know if he's going to be back within an hour, based off the fact that in the next episode we clearly move on to the next day. But we will cross that train. We will cross that bridge when we get there. But RK, once again, a breath of fresh air. Wyatt climbing out of the window is funny as hell. I do have one complaint, and I know I'm kind of jumping ahead to the next week's episode. Still no gun. So are they going to save this gun thing until the mid-season finale of season 6? Because at this point I just don't even care, because we do know in the preview for next week Kathryn wakes up, you know, looking hungover, so we know for a fact that she isn't asleep in her pink gown, the one that Wyatt's chasing her around the house in with the gun. So guys, I don't think we're going to see this gun until the mid-season finale, or at least within the next 4 or 5 episodes. That's just my theory there. But yeah, I already talked about Veronica and David's house. I talked about Jim being sincere when it comes to Kathryn in the hotel, guys. Yeah, I get it, Kathryn. I do like the fact that she was speaking what the audience has been speaking. Look, you've had all these whores. It's my turn to I'm not even close to where you are in the number of times you cheated on me. Very true. She kicked her heels off, put her feet up, get out of my house. But again, this isn't the time. Jim is actually being sincere. I mean, he knows from experience what it's like to be publicly embarrassed, but that's from his own carelessness. But at the same time, it's like, you got jail on the brain. I mean, you got jail on the horizon. But on top of that, it's like, you know what? If I leave you, you won't have a dime. again, Kathryn gave Jim $10 million like a season ago, and that $10 million was not Wyatt's inheritance. So unless they get a divorce and she takes that money, Jim is still going to have millions of dollars. So I don't know if that's a plot inconsistency or what. So I don't know. I mean, we do know that when she said she was getting a divorce, she literally cut Jim off. So if she does that again, then I see what she's saying. But once again, he does have money in his accounts. I mean, Wyatt's inheritance isn't Jim's money. It isn't Kathryn's money. It is Wyatt's money from Kathryn's father. But his parents would have been keeping the money from his own self-destruction. But we'll just have to wait and see what's going on. But other than that, the episode ends, and like I said, I kind of breezed past the Jim Benny thing because not much to talk about. Jim and Benny don't get the money back, yada yada yada. Madison leaves the hospital with Keisha there, who's still looking fine. And I've already talked about this. 2 gunshot wounds to the head. So is it 2 people or is it 1? Let me know what you think. But overall, Spanish Moss Trail, best episode so far of the season. 8.5 out of 10. Like I said, the slowest part was probably just Veronica and David. I'm just tired of them doing that same little dance. It was an enjoyable episode. I probably will rewatch it because I have to watch it slow because I got to get the screenshots and take notes. So I'll definitely rewatch this probably sometime Wednesday. But with that being said, folks, let me know what you thought in the comment section below. Be sure to check me out on Patreon if you want to become a patron for as little as $2 a month. And if you don't have the money to donate, that's completely fine and understandable. So do me a favor instead, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, as well as sharing it around on social media, as well as follow me on my various other social media platforms. The links are in the description below. And above all else, hit that subscribe button and the bell notification icon. That way we can hopefully hit 80,000 subscribers before the month of June. So thanks so much for tuning in. Let me know what you thought of tonight's episode, and be on the lookout for my trailer for next week's episode, Tomorrow's Not Promised.